Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now I realize it has been absolutely forever since I uploaded any of my map 8 runs, and I also have been multiple times mentioning that I actually do use Silver Surfer in map 8 quite a bit, especially when I am not running Liquid Courage Double Edge. So during this particular AQ run, I actually start out without Liquid Courage Double Edge, and then I later on put them on for war purposes, and then obviously I have to finish with Liquid Courage Double Edge. I will be using all three champions, so let's get to it. The first Human Torch fight, if I take it, or Rhino fight, depends which one of the first fights I do take for myself. I typically like to get in the 3 missions with Hercules, and to get in 3 missions, obviously you have to get knocked down, and I always pretty much end up eating last hit of Human Torches level 1 on purpose just to get that quicker ramp up. Because, health is not the most important thing when you're running Hercules, especially if you are running Liquid Courage Double Edge and you just nuke things later on. So here we can see that I already have gained all 3 of my persistent charges, so I use my level 1 to gain precision buffs because, well, I can't get past level 1 either way, and that power lock is passive. And now it's just to kind of finish out the fight. I lost about 4% health from eating that level 1. Sometimes when it crits, it does hurt a bit more, but it really isn't the biggest deal with Hercules if you lose a little bit of health, but it does help if he's ramped up as quickly as possible. Then it is just something that you don't have to think about at all, like ever. There's some nice level 1 invades nailed, and we are done. Now this next up, I do have a partner for section 1 because I do have very limited time. I can play the game in the evenings, and it is, quite important that somebody helps me out with energy, otherwise it would cause a lot of problems. And this lane is where basically opponent has to have 3 debuffs in order for me to deal damage to them, and that is the main requirement. And also any non-cosmic and non-mutant champions lose 50% of the damage, and then there is that node that makes them go unstoppable periodically. So that is an important node to work around with. But I have matched my timing kind of perfectly where with Silver Surfer, when I shoot off my level 1, the last hit hits their block after the unstoppable expires, and then basically they don't punish that level 1, or even if they do try, that level 1 creates enough distance for me to be able to block in time. So this is a safe thing to do if you know exactly what you are doing by activating your first buff and when your power cosmic is going to come back. Other than Silver Surfer, I use either null or CGR if I'm running Liquid Courage Double Edge for this lane. I can use King Groot if I want to, but King Groot's kind of slower, and since these fights are happening very late in the evening, for me, it is quite important that I get through them as quickly as possible. So here we can see again, what is important is to get in that parry medium hit and then drop your heavy attack, because that means that your power cosmic buff is gonna come back a bit later, and that means that again you're gonna see last hit lands straight after that unstoppable expires, and I am safe to throw it. Now I did make a mistake there, and I did get hit a bit in the face, but because of the armor breaks, because of the shock, and Silver Surfer not taking any shock damage, we can see that willpower is healing me up quite well. Here again, I just activated my heavy attack, because why wouldn't I? And that phase kind of helped me out. Here we can see that Hulkbuster remaining at 16% health and starting to heal. That level 2 did a ton of damage, unfortunately not just quite enough to finish off the fight. Here I'm backing off, getting that armor buff, but here I just decided that level 1 is going to be enough to finish off the fight, and it is exactly enough. So it was a bit risky play, but we're back to 99% health. And yeah, so we can carry on. Again, this is just like a random run. I didn't wait or try to record a perfect run, so I will make some mistakes during these fights, especially for whatever reason in the very, very last clip. But Silver Surfer definitely will get plenty of fights in here, and I could have done more fights with Silver Surfer, but I was kind of determined to have Hercules rank up in case I do need to do some mini bosses or bosses. Then it's much easier to do it with a ramped up Hercules. And here we can see again the same thing. Since I knew exactly that I need to kind of postpone the activation of my first power cosmic buff slightly, that level 1 again connects that block after the unstoppable has expired, and they do not punish it. So I haven't gotten punished a single time after I threw my level 1 whilst they are unstoppable. So it's just quite an important note. You do not want to start with just a straight up heavy or parry heavy. You want to get in that medium and kind of delay that a little bit. And here we can see that Silver Surfer is putting in work. Now that I nearly made a mistake, but everything's fine. Now I'm going to be... Now there I actually... This is a mistake. I activated my heavy attack slightly too early. And obviously I dropped my level 2 in the block because I was missing a buff. Luckily though, I recovered just in time and I didn't drop off all of my buffs and was able to finish out the fight. So, but I did take some damage there. This is about day 4 though. And Silver Surfer with both of those armor buffs is actually quite tanky as well. Or even with just the one of them active. And now Mysterio. Now Mysterio can be somewhat annoying and tricky fight to go up against. Especially because that unstoppable is just another thing to keep in mind. And then obviously you have to watch the gas timers after he uses his special attacks and everything else. However, Silver Surfer does have ability to bypass miss on his level 1s, and that often can come into play as well. And obviously, armor breaks do prevent him from generating many of those gas charges, so that is super helpful there as well. Here, I will shoot the level 1 in, well, he didn't block initially, but and that is going to do some damage back to me, but it's not the biggest deal. It's just something that I chose to do, to sacrifice a bit of my health in order to get like a proper ramp up undisturbed for most part. And now here we can see that I go for heavy attack. I should have went for a level 1 to be honest there, which I do right now, because if he throws his level 2, then it would enable me to bypass that miss. But he was a bit slow with dropping that, but still, I managed to get past that miss, but at that point I didn't have the 3 armor breaks anymore. But then I just finished out the fight with a heavy attack. Now, normally I actually do these 2 fights as well. Well, I do the Sentinel. We're going to do Sentinel fight next. But I use Sentinel fight again to gain 3 charges on my Hercules and get knocked down on purpose. Because Sentinel's level 1 is kind of like notoriously weak on individual hit. And it also can place an armor break on you. And we're going to see that I started this fight with like 95 or 96% health. But I'm actually going to regenerate by having taken damage from that level 1 and having had that armor break applied to me. And again, we have gained 3 of the persistent charges on Hercules. So this is again a super easy way how to ramp up your Hercules quicker, just to eat that final bit of that level 1 on purpose there. And that was all she wrote 29-second fight. Now, typically I do take this Unstoppable Colossus and Hitmonkey as well. But again, this particular evening, I was in quite a bit of rush. So I didn't end up taking those fights. Now we're going to have to scroll past these. And this is already next morning. Somebody else had taken that Unstoppable Colossus and Hitmonkey. Again, those are normally the fights that I do take. But I knew that I'm in a rush. That's why I didn't want to do the Unstoppable Colossus fight. Because I wanted to leave that boss fight pre-fight ability to whoever is going to take the Hitmonkey or the Nimrod. Because I didn't want to just grab it and then not use it. And now up against Venom. Again, this is a bit different node, where opponent has to have 3 buffs active on them, and I have to have 3 buffs active on me. So as soon as I'm going to be done with Silver Surfer's ramp up, that's going to be pretty much it. I'm never going to lose those buffs, so to speak. But here, because he threw that level 1, it actually threw a bit of a spanner in my wheels. And I'm going to have to do a bit different ramp up here, which is perfectly fine. I'm just going to have to go for another heavy attack here and get my 2 Furies one at a time, independently, basically, without using special attacks. That is one of the things that is super underrated about Silver Surfer, that you can have a full ramp up without throwing those level 1. So you can do it very freely with heavy attacks, and you do have enough time to get 1 Fury, 2nd Fury, and then a 3rd buff to refresh both of those Furies, like I just demonstrated there. And now I have 3 buffs, and I will have them active for the rest of the fight, and that Venom is going to be dead. That heavy attack deals plenty of damage as well. And yeah, and that level 2 is going to be way overkill here at this point. So very quick, very straightforward fight. Next fight, again, here, I could have used Silver Surfer if I wanted to. His immunity to armor breaks wouldn't be a big deal. But again, I will choose to use Hercules in order to get in some ramp up. So again, we're knocking down. That's 1 charge, so we're at 7 now. And then in this fight, though, I do not get knocked down on purpose. I'm going to leave it there. I already have the intercept charge, which is fine. Go for level 1 intercept to get the 3 precisions, and now we can just start dealing all the damage in the world. Knock him down there. If at times you are struggling to bet specials out of the opponent, then they quite often get more special friendly if you are just knocking them down. And then, I don't know, for me, in my experience, they are typically more friendly to use their special. And then level 2 to finish off the fight. Very clean, very quick. Next fight's quite interesting, though, because next fight is against Super Skrull, and I'm going to be using Silver Surfer for this one as well. There is one trick against Super Skrull that ever since I learned how to use it, Super Skrull fights have become significantly easier for me to handle, and that is that gap in between his level 1, where he basically throws that rock, but you can dash in at him. So you guys can see it in a second. So here I throw my level 1 again. That places some armor break, so it also kind of conveniently delays his ramp up. But this is what I'm talking about, where you can just basically dash in whilst he is throwing that level 1. There I was hitting his block on purpose to get rid of Falter whilst I had Vigilance active, because obviously Silver Surfer can bypass miss whilst that Vigilance is on. And now I have all of my buffs basically active. I have full ramp up in terms of damage. Here again, I get a chance to squeeze in between that level 1. It just makes it so it's level 1 is super easy to punish, and it makes it a lot less confusing. And here I drop a big level 2, which I perhaps shouldn't have, because that pushed him to level 2 and I end up taking some damage. But thanks to that armor up, again, Surfer is quite tanky, and this isn't like one of the early day AQs. I believe this is day 4 AQ. So there was absolutely no problem dealing with that Super Skrull for Silver Surfer. Very, very good fight. Now we're going to be using Hercules again for this Red Hulk. This Red Hulk is actually quite annoying. So he has the node that exchanges the power. If at the end of the timer you have more power than your opponent does, then basically you swap power bars with your opponent, which is quite annoying. And then there's also aspect of evolution. This node has very, very funny interaction with King Groot, and I quite often actually end up using King Groot against like Warlock and this Red Hulk as well. But this time around, for kind of speed reasons, again, I just chose to go with Hercules, plus I hadn't done ramping him up properly. Here I nearly made a mistake because I barely last minute realized that my power got stolen by that node again. And here I had 3 precision buffs. I'm going to drop my level 2, which again, unfortunately, not a single one of the hits crit, so I hardly do any damage. But as soon as I get a few crits in, I finish off the fight very, very quickly. That fight can be quite annoying. But this is kind of half meant to be Silver Surfer Showcase, so once again we are shifting back to Silver Surfer, even though King Groot is virtually a perfect matchup for this fight, because his power cannot be reduced by any means by Warlock or by the node here, and King Groot does this fight exceedingly well, and so does Hercules, to be honest. But no less importantly, so does Silver Surfer as well. I just need to be careful initially to make sure that I have 3 different buffs active by the time I get the 19th 19th infection charge on me, or 20th. So I am dropping few heavy attacks here early because I wanted to kind of gain more power in less hits and you know, waste the time a bit, so to speak. But now that I have 3 buffs on me, I really don't care about the infection, because the infection is going to be over in like 2 seconds. As we can see here, the infection doesn't last any time at all whatsoever. So I'm basically just free to go in, drop level 2, and even though level 2 can't crit, the secondary damage still does a ton, and that Warlock goes down like a happy little camper. Now there is a Guardian fight. Could have used pretty much anyone, but here I decided to use my Hercules. This is a very simple fight intended to just pick up the pre-fight for the Nimrod mini boss fight, and you know, nothing too special there. So as long as you have the Guardian level 1 evade in, it's quite easy. And with Hercules, you have access to the True Focus, or whichever one he has, but it does bypass auto block, and obviously that means that you don't need to worry throwing your special attacks against this guy. It's very easy, very straightforward. You do need to keep in mind though that True Focus, True Sense lasts shorter amount of time than the precisions does, so you kind of have to keep throwing the level 1. You don't necessarily always have the time to get back up to level 2, but again, very easy, very quick fight. Then at some point, no, well, this is war, this is war, and then later on at some point, I kind of figured out that I was tired of waiting for the mini boss to get unlinked. He does have Power Snack, which is the node that I really don't like dealing with. The other one, the Conflictor one, I kind of find a bit easier to deal with. I have taken plenty of linked Nimrods. Obviously, ideally, you do want them to be unlinked, but since I had Liquid Courage Double Edge on past this point in the Alliance quest, and because of Alliance War, I just decided to go for it. He does gain a whole ton of power all the time because of his Energize and because of everything else, really. So this is a whole lot of special baiting. But whenever Hercules does get some sort of window of opening to attack, then he immediately does plenty of damage. Now, this isn't going to go perfect at all. I will actually make a silly... That was a silly mistake, hitting his block while he was unstoppable. But I'll actually make a silly mistake later on. Don't know why I have still occasional trouble evading that level 1, but it's fine. I have the level 2 evade pretty much perfectly down. Now he's again going for level 2, and he's already at 50%. Again, this fight is made a lot harder than it should be by myself, just because I'm somewhat impatient. But here again, I do have a free opening there, but you can see that Power Snack is just so potent in this fight. He was under a bar of power, there was no Energize active. I landed 3 hits, he's at 2 bars of power. This is a very, very tough Power Snack to deal with. And because of that, I cannot ever gain 15 hits on my pre-fight as well, so I do not get the benefit of that Massive Fury. But at some point later on, I will actually lose my patience. Here again, I get clipped by the last hit. I start these evades a bit too early now that I look back. And here I drop a level 1, which, is neat, but it's only, again, 4 hits. He's at like 20 some hits there. And I will try to be overly aggressive, which I'm going to pay for with pretty much my entire health bar. We can see that I'm still at 77% health, or 66 now, and I could have just slow played this. But this fight just kind of annoyed me a bit too much, so I decided, the hell with it, let's go for it. And I'm going to make a silly mistake. I think here, I thought that the special lock or power lock will basically be over by the time I finish the combo. It wasn't. And here, luckily, he doesn't use a special 3, but he does give a combo to my face, and I lose pretty much entire HP. Now, again, it doesn't matter. It's Hercules, really. I can finish rest of the fights with 1 HP if need be. It's not the biggest of the deals. So here we have Vision. And now, because I have Liquid Courage Double Edge on, I can't really use my Silver Surfer all that freely. I need to use him on the fights that I know I can regenerate back, thanks to willpower, and because I don't necessarily want the rest of the fights to be kind of Hercules, destruction fest, so to speak. I did want to use King Groot, especially against Vision, because we're going to get an opportunity to showcase quite a decent level 2 here against this Vision, because obviously against robots, King Groot does get quite a lot of extra damage on level 2, so check this out. That is a nice level 2 from King Daddy Groot. And then we're just going to drop another combo that finishes off the fight. That was quite a sweet level 2, you guys have to admit that. Now, against Hulkbuster, though, Hulkbuster is an opponent I can quite easily go ahead and use Silver Surfer and actually expect to maybe recover some of my HP. But I will make several mistakes in this fight. And this last bit here is going to be... No, well, not this clip yet, but the final clip is going to be very, very messy. Again, there are some personal reasons for it, but sometimes we just suck. And for that particular period of time in the day, it was my turn to kind of suck. And we haven't used any items, and all our champions are still, perfectly alive and in perfectly working order, and that's going to change quite soon. Here we can see against Hulkbuster that Silver Surfer is recovering and need quite a lot of health. I actually probably should not have tried to focus on maintaining my buffs, because I do that by armor breaking Hulkbuster, and that means I can't get shock placed on myself, and that again, doesn't let me heal all that quickly. So I still get the armor break healing though, so that is quite neat. Not complaining about that. I'm back up to 50%. I'm actually gonna end up this fight with like a couple of percent extra health. I think I net 2% health here, but it was a fairly silly affair. And then I have to go up against Groot. I'm gonna use Silver Surfer for this fight as well because I still had 50 some percent, which should be fairly good to get through this fight if I don't make any mistakes, which unfortunately I will. Here I eat 2 hits, which cost too much. But I am using the ramp up method of not using level 1. So again, here you can see that I'm slowly ramping up with heavy attacks, and I'm gonna go for level 3 in this fight instead of level 2s just to avoid the recoil damage. Here you can see that I have 3 of my buffs active, and this fight again is the same as in section 2 basically, where in order to be able to deal damage, I have to have 3 buffs and opponent has to have 3 buffs. That is it. As long as both of the champions involved have at least 3 buffs on them each, then that's basically straightforward fight. And that's it. So those are my lanes as well. Typically, they always do in map 8. So lane 7, section 1, and lane 8 in section 2 and 3. And here again, I somehow managed to eat a heavy attack. Luckily, it didn't crit, and that armor is definitely helping me to take less damage, but it was a quite silly fight, leaving me with only like 19% health, which I could have finished this fight much better. It just made a few silly mistakes. Again, I thought I dashed back, but my thumb didn't, or my phone didn't, and it's all good. Mistakes happen. And again, as I said, this is just a fairly kind of casual, everyday alliance quest run that I have. It's not, specifically cherry-picked one. So that's it for this fight. And then now there is a clip of mistakes. Now, King Groot is perfectly healthy and allegedly immortal, right? Yeah, guys, you guessed it. I will get my King Groot KO'd somehow. This is the first time I'm gonna get my King Groot KO'd, aside from the boss fight, in like 2 months. But you guys are gonna witness a legendary moment. Rank 3, 6 stars, 640 King Groot is gonna get KO'd. I don't think it's gonna be on this fight though. This fight is not gonna be the quickest one though. And again, with King Groot's perfectly capable of doing virtually every single fight I have done up until now, and that's one of the reasons why he is on my quest team. I'll be 100% honest, just because he does take a bit longer. I do not necessarily always use him as my primary driver. It's typically in between Hercules and then CGR or Null or Silver Surfer for section 1, because Hercules doesn't do it too well without specific synergies. But whenever I do screw up, King Groot's always there, and he is borderline immortal, and he is awesome to have, and he can do pretty much every single fight along the way. I have used King Groot in section 1. You just need to throw 1 level 1. They have 3 permanent armor breaks, and then that's it. You have nothing to worry about anymore. And both of those other lanes where opponents have to have 3 buffs and I have to have 3 buffs, obviously King Groot can get plenty of furies and do plenty of damage. Now, he does have this downtime whilst you are in your region phase, but you cannot do damage. But again, you're basically immortal as an exchange. He's a bit slower. I use him an absolute ton whenever I do screw up, but he's not my plan A champion, so to speak. He's in my team as a item-saving backup option, if you will. Here I make a first mistake and I end up eating combo from Odin, but it's no biggie. We're healing 346 per tick, which is not too bad. Which is not too bad at all. Another thing quite a few people forget about King Groot is that you can pause your poison duration by throwing heavy attacks, which is sometimes quite a useful thing to do in matchups such as this, because you can make that poison last for more phases if need be. But we ended up healing back up to 70%. Everything's fine. I should be healing back to full in this Venom Pool fight, right? I should be healing back to full in this Venom Pool fight. This Venom Pool fight is actually very, very easy, and I out of all of the fights in my last section, it's arguably the easiest one, because once he does get 3 buffs, he will always have 3 buffs. You don't have to worry about that, and he does have quite simple animations. But I digress. We're gonna screw up at some point here. But we can definitely see that region kick in pretty much full force, and everything's working fine. I'm at 86%, and then I eat a heavy attack. However, I can pretend that I ate that heavy attack on purpose because it gave Venom Pull a new buff, and that was exactly the buff needed for me to do damage. So like, that actually worked out quite well. It was the first heavy attack ever I eat from Venom Pool, but it worked out, apparently. Now I eat a level 2. He finishes his dance and then gets enough time to get in a combo at me, because apparently that was an intercept, which is something that we never get to drop. I'm thinking I'm an idiot, but everything's fine because I still have King Groot. I have 20% health, and I have recovered King Groot from way less health than this. And then I get caught on dashback again. I don't know what was happening to me. I'm just gonna play very, very silly. I'm just gonna play very, very silly. So I'm gonna finish this fight off quickly with Hercules. There's nothing special to it. Just need to make sure that he gets the 3 buffs, I get the 3 buffs, and everything else is gonna be fine. Blah 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 blah, whatever. Now I drop my level 2 once he had 3 buffs active, and that's all she wrote. And now Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer, this again is going to be a fight where I thought I can use my own Silver Surfer, and I'm gonna be a clever guy for doing it, because he's gonna place armor breaks the entire fight on me, and that's gonna enable me to have access to willpower healing, which is pretty much perfect. I do not really worry about making sure that he has 3 buffs initially. What I worry about more is basically just ramping up, and also making sure that I get those armor breaks placed on me so I can heal from willpower. Again, this would be much easier. Obviously, if I didn't have Liquid Courage Double Edge, I wouldn't have to worry about any of that stuff. Now I drop a heavy attack there, but I will make a very stupid mistake at one point. It's fine though, we're gonna see it in a second. So I'm dropping my level 3, and level 3 actually is gonna do quite a lot of damage, because we had the 3 armor breaks on the opponent, and I had both of the double furies active, and it is quite a decent, significant chunk of damage. In fact, I'm gonna be doing so much damage. Check this out. He's at 1%. And I decide to go for the regular thing I do with Silver Surfer all the time, just to drop a heavy attack from distance to activate a buff. Right? And I left him at 1%. And obviously I forgot that he had Vigilance active. I had completely forgotten that, and he just lays in on me. So it's a silly mistake finish here. But it's fine. I'm just going to bring in Hercules and again finish off the fight. Everything's okay. And then I have this fight, and now at this point I only have Hercules alive, obviously, and that's a very straightforward fight. When you have Liquid Courage Double Edge active and you're running Hercules, then for these basic fights there's not much to them. Just hit the opponent and job's done. Right, unfortunately I did miss out on my boss action. I was trying to snipe it for the video, just to kind of like have a Hercules nuke on Penny, but I did miss out on that. So this is a 27-minute video. It is my full run of my Alliance quest, including a mini boss takedown. Unfortunately, no final boss takedown. I typically do fight that Penny. Hope you guys enjoyed this video at the very least, and I will catch you guys later. See ya.
Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next